water got evaporated into clouds. Precipitation down into the ocean. Evaporated into the clouds again. That rained down like a little raindrop into the river, falling down.
That's the end, yeah. Once upon a time, there was a raindrop named Bob. Bob had a condensation into the ocean.
Then he went in a loop-de-loop, went through the clouds, and the end.
The end.
First, I woke up in a lake. There was a waterfall.
I splashed into another lake, then I evaporated.
To the cloud, then I froze into a glacier.
From the glacier, I moved to soil.
So then I ran off to the ground.
Then I slowly made my way to the lake.
So then I stayed in lake for 4 years.
After being in lake for 4 years, I went to river.
Then I went to ground. After being in ground, I went to the ocean and got swallowed by an animal and they blew me out.
Then I went to soil.
So then I participated into a cloud. Then I evaporated into the ocean.
Yay!
Hi, my name is Lily. First, I started in groundwater. Then I went back up to a lake. Then I evaporated into a cloud. I moved over some clouds so then I could precipitate into the glacier. 3 days later, after those long 3 days, I evaporated back into a cloud. I fell back into a lake, evaporated back into a cloud, and precipitated back into the ocean. A while later, I evaporated back into a cloud and fell in the soil. The end. First, I was in the groundwater with my family. Then my mommy threw me into the lake. Get away from us! I don't want to see you again! You worthless water droplet. I tried climbing back, but then she just threw me. I never want to see you again. I met a fish named Bob. We played for a while, but then I evaporated into the clouds. Then I participated to the glacier. But then the runoff brought me all the way to the river. Better stay there, you little worthless water droplet. But then I evaporated to the clouds. But then I ran off to the river. My family's having a picnic without me. My family's getting old. Wow, look how old my parents are. My sister had a baby and she's going in her house. I participated to the lake, but then the fish ate me. Spit me back out. Whoosh! And I was flinging to the groundwater. Looks like I landed to my sister's house. My parents are going away to the clouds. We love to read it.
Hello, welcome to Diary of a Drop of Water. Just let this, this is a journal, not a diary. Specifically, told my mom to get a journal, not a diary. All right,
Yeah, just
let's
to
get this started. First, I precipitated down into a lake. Then I evaporated back up and condensated into a cloud.
Oh, by the way, my name is Watterson.
After that, I precipitated back down into that same lake and then went and got sucked up by this bunny rabbit. He walked a little bit till he peed me out. And then, I went into the soil, up into a tree.
I stayed in that tree for a while. Then I went out of the tree. I condensated back into the cloud. I precipitated down
into the ocean. Took me a little while before I got there, though. Like, a while. Then I got sucked up into this wave. It's curvy.
my head.
Then I got evaporated back up into a cloud. After that, I precipitated down and made my long journey to a glacier.
Hi, my name is Siko, and I am totally living it up in this bathroom. Their life is nice, these brown squishy things that make a nice bed at night. But one day, I got flushed down the toilet. When I was going through the pumps and everything and the sewage lines, and I don't even know what they're called, I bit into something that looked and tasted and felt like chocolate cake. I eventually emptied out into the ocean. And I stayed there for 2 entire years. It was actually really boring. Blech. blech, blech. Then I became condensation into the clouds. And I went all the way up. There, I met some friends, and I stayed there for a couple of months. It was nice. It was like one big family. I enjoyed it, but then I had to say goodbye when I run off into the mountains and back to the ocean. It was so boring. There, I met a fishy, and I was like, "Sup, fishy? Wanna play ball?" But the fishy then ate me. How rude. So much for sup, fishy. A fishy's supposed to be nice. That's just mean. Whatever. Cannot believe this. Then an angel came down, and she picked me up. Or I then went back into the clouds. Eventually, and then I floated all the way to Alaska, where I was back in the ocean, wishing away. And then eventually, I became into glaciers. I mean, who would have thought? It was quite boring. You just stood there forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And I'm still here telling you about all of
Of a drop of water. It all started out in groundwater, but it was too dirty. So then I rolled down into the lake, and then I evaporated up into the best place imaginable. The cloud. It was soft, wonderful, and amazing. And everything a raindrop could dream of. But then I precipitated down into the cold land of the glaciers. It was so cold there, and I got so cold that I almost froze. But then finally that glacier melted. So then I trickled down to the river, and then I stayed there for a while. It was pretty nice. It was okay. But then I got swept off to the ocean, where it was big, deep, and full of creatures that would want to drink me. But then finally, I ended up evaporating out of that horrid place and up into the cloud.
Once upon a time, there was a little droplet that was hanging out with his friends, plants and animals, when all of a sudden he evaporated into the clouds, and right away the precipitation commenced. Then he turned into a droplet and fell into the ocean. He was in the ocean for a long time, and then finally he soaked into the soil and then popped out in the river, and then evaporated into a cloud again and stayed there for a little while. Then he participated and fell into the ocean. He was there for longer than last time. I mean a long time. Then he froze into a glacier. Last I remember, he evaporated back into a cloud.
In the glacier, then melted into an ocean, then evaporated into a cloud, then rained precipitation into a flowing river. And that river goes into the ocean, and I was eaten by a big fish and got peed out by the big fish. Then ended in the glacier. Bow! 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 Bow!
Once upon a time, there was a drop of water. He was born in a cloud, and his name was Gerald the Third. After a few years, he had to go down to school, so he had to precipitate down to the ocean. His teacher's name was Miss Fish.
Get to work now.
5 years later.
Then after 5 years, he evacuated back to his home so he could visit his parents.
Goodbye, son.
Bye, Mama. Bye, Dad. I'll see you in 7 years.
But before he knew it, it was time to go back to school, so he precipitated back down to the ocean for 7 more years.
You're late.
Sorry.
Get to work now.
7 years later, he graduated and evacuated back to his parents to tell them the good news.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. Guess what? I graduated.
Good job, son.
We love you, honey.
To visit his old pal Tom.
Hey, Tom. You home?
Then they lived happily ever after.
The end. Woohoo!